I was not an early adopter of Parks and Rec. The show was over, in fact, when I first watched it, so I don't like The Office. Yes, I know. You would think that I would, but I don't. I really don't like uncomfortable humor. I did give it a legitimate try. I can't remember if I watched up to halfway through season 4 or if I finished the whole season, but after I got that far, I had a moment of clarity and thought, I'm not enjoying this. So I refused the sunken cost fallacy and I stopped. I said that to say Parks and Rec looked like an Office knockoff, and if you don't like Dr. Pepper, why the heck would you try Diet? Years passed, I got married, and my wife said that she was pretty sure that I would actually like the show, so I gave it a shot. We watched up to the last season, and then she said she hated the last season, so we stopped. But I did really like the show. Andy and April are one of the great couples of all time. Ron Swanson is my spirit animal, and Tom just constantly cracked me up. It was a truly great show. Unlike Glee, Parks and Rec was a good show with fantastic, engaging, believable characters that people really connected with. But like Glee, there is one episode that has lived rent-free in my head since I first saw it. Season 5, Episode 11, Women in Garbage. Once again, the reason is annoyance and anger, but this time in a more head-shaky way, rather than a punch the showrunner in the face way. Partly because I understand why the Parks and Rec writers did what they did, unlike Glee, which was just utter stupidity. This episode is plenty funny, but I think it could have been much funnier. And what held it back was a group of writers, actors, producers, and directors all held captive by a flawed worldview. I say flawed not because it disagrees with mine, but because it doesn't ring true. Even in a somewhat absurd show like Parks and Rec, reflecting reality is important to a joke or a situation. You can have a crazy character who acts like no one else that we have ever met in our lives. But as long as that character consistently behaves in the way that he has been presented, we accept what he does as reasonable. But if he breaks from that pattern, we complain that something he did didn't make sense because he's not behaving in a way that we have been acclimated to expect him to behave. And it's the same with An Odd World. Who Framed Roger Rabbit's world is crazy and weird, but there are established rules for how that world works, and we quickly have an idea of what to expect from that world, and we would notice if something breaks from the reality that we have been presented. Parks and Rec is presented as being a small town, an odd small town that tries a little too hard to appear idealized, but all in all, a typical small town. This isn't some strange alternate universe where we expect the world to behave differently. It is our world, my country, and a city that we feel like we could find and go to and visit and hang out in. That intro brings me to the episode. Leslie is looking to help with equity in Pawnee and notices that there are no women garbage collectors. Therefore, during a meeting of the leaders of the different government departments, she asks the head of sanitation why that is. He says it's because women don't have the strength to perform the job. Leslie says that's just poppycock. He dismisses her objections, and she says that she could definitely do the job. He says if she can, he will rethink his position. Leslie ropes Anne into helping her. Anne doesn't want to help at first, but Leslie tells her it's to defeat a sexist pig who says women are weak. Anne agrees to work as a garbage collector for a day. The day of their challenge begins, and they are doing awesome. They're in fact going faster than the usual garbage collectors. They get near the end, and a call comes in to make a special garbage pickup. They arrive at a restaurant, and it is a giant fridge. Anne and Leslie try their absolute hardest, but they eventually have to tap out because they cannot move the fridge, much less get it on the truck. Leslie and Anne are sad that they lost, but then they find out that the head of sanitation cheated them. The call about that fridge had come in a few days ago, and he knew that it would require 6 or 7 guys to deal with. So when Anne and Leslie were close to winning the bet, he told them about the fridge knowing they'd fail because he didn't want to be proven wrong and have to hire yucky girls as garbage people. That's not the most appealing job title I could have given them. Leslie calls him out, and he agrees that women can do the job, and it ends with 3 garbage women starting work. First off, I have to say that in having an episode clearly designed to make a political point, it seems kind of petty to call garbage men a sexist boys club. Just a weird group to call out. Second, and primarily, it is funny at first, but the jokes really dry up once Ann and Leslie start their shift because it kind of devolves into sisterhood down with the patriarchy stuff in a way that is kind of completely dishonest. This episode is a product of the Marxist worldview that unequal disbursement always equals discrimination. There aren't any garbage women. The manager must be a caveman who refuses to hire women. There's no other possible explanation. But the humor suffers because of that false premise, and had the writer been honest about the world and the differences between men and women, the episode would have been a lot funnier. Had I written this episode, this is what would have happened. Set up exactly the same. Leslie sees that there are no garbage women, and she wants to know why. So she asks about it. But instead of just responding with the straw man response of, "Women not strong," I would have had him say, "Well, to be honest, Leslie, I've been in this position for the last 15 years, and I've never seen a single job application from a woman." Now, Leslie is a product of that Marxist mindset, but also, at this point, she's been second-guessed and undermined pretty consistently, so she would have the reflexive reaction of, "That can't be true." Then he would just kind of shrug and say, "I mean, you're welcome to check." This is where I would have Leslie rope Ann in, but not to collect garbage. Instead, they start going through decades of job applications, and they can banter and whatnot while they look. Leslie would then confront sanitation with a small stack of applications belonging to women. The manager goes through them, but points out that they're all actually men. They just have effeminate names. One of them could even be Leslie, since that wasn't a man's name until around the 70s, really. Leslie and Ann are disheartened. It bothers them that there is no female representation in this field, and they decide that it must be that the patriarchal system has convinced women they can't be garbage collectors, and they need to figure out a way to get women interested. Leslie suggests that they do the one-day shift, but Ann doesn't want to. Leslie admits she doesn't want to either. So they decide on a job fair type booth that pitches a job to women. They make it sound really cool using buzzwords and also things designed to appeal to women. There are a number of interested women, but they all scoff and reject it once they discover that the job is garbage collection. So now Leslie is annoyed that no women want to take the job, and she's kind of mad at herself for not wanting to do it either. This is when Rob gives her advice that sometimes you can't change human nature. Most women don't like garbage, and most men don't mind it. It's just the way of the world. You may disagree with me, but in my opinion, this works better because it's true. And as the saying goes, it's funny because it's true. I'll see you next time if you subscribe. Bye.